Hey, welcome back everybody. We're going to be doing a little quick tips section today. Basically, how do you kind of break down the general anatomy of the face? You know, what are some of the sort of simple shapes, maybe some proportions and landmarks of the face that you should be looking for when you're starting off a portrait and what you're actually looking for trying to capture the likeness. And a lot of that kind of just comes down to general proportions and shape structure of the face. I've been binge watching Vikings lately on Amazon. I think I'm on season 3, but Floki, this character on the left over here, has actually become kind of a favorite of mine, just being a really kind of a crazy, you know, off the cuff kind of character. He's just kind of very entertaining to watch. So I thought I'd maybe try to break down some of the general anatomy here and present to you sort of just some quick tips here that we can look at when we're doing a drawing. So right off the bat, I got my canvas set up. I did a red line really briefly over the face, and I'll show you that in a moment. But I'll kind of give you some basic ideas. So, starting off with the face structure, this is kind of akin to Loomis, but you're going to be doing a circular shape, right? That's kind of like how everyone starts off faces in general. Typically speaking, you're going to shave off the sides a little bit to kind of narrow the face, because the head isn't necessarily a sphere, but so we're going to kind of chop some of those side structures off. We're going to find the halfway point. This is our brow line, where the eyebrows are going to be, and then we're going to find thirds. So one of the big things here is this is not necessarily where the eyes are, but this is where your eyebrows are going to be. So we're going to just kind of apply some eyebrows kind of coming through here, right? Eyes will be in this general vicinity. We're not going to worry about details yet. We are going to come down about a third though, or halfway rather, between this line and here. This will be roughly where the tip of our nose will be. Now his head in the reference is slightly tilted down, so this might be slightly lower. Head angle does play a key role in terms of feature location. And again, if you are tilting the head down, that causes the nose to then droop down a little bit, as well as the mouth just a little bit. So, but these are things that you want to consider when you're trying to figure out facial structure depending on the anatomy or the positioning of the face. Now, when you are doing a portrait like this, this will be one of your lines. From here to here, so from your brow line to your nose line is about a third, right? This is one section you want to look for. We want to do 2 more thirds though. So from here to here we find equal distance, and from here to here we find equal distance. Now what does this all mean? This will be your brow line. It does have a bit of like a widow's peak kind of haircut going on here, but typically speaking, this is where the hairline is going to start, and then down here will be right around where the chin is going to be. So you have thirds, right? Separating sort of the key features. Now this brow, or yeah, the brow line, the hairline up here is not necessarily where the head's going to end. It actually will be up here a little bit higher. But you can kind of, again, find some of the basic landmarks of the face right here by doing this. So, when you have this all established, we're going to be looking at, you know, just kind of chunking in some eyes really, really quickly. We have our brow here, right? We're looking at distances like where the edge of the eyebrow is versus where the edge of the eye is. There we go. So we got some... Again, we're not really rendering, we're not putting any kind of significant detail into this, we're just trying to find some basic structure going on here. But yeah, so this is the tip of the nose down here. We're going to just kind of create a really simple shape. You can kind of think of the nose as a triangular shape, right? The nose bone kind of coming down, you have the nostrils flaring out. Again, you can kind of keep it just really simple shapes like this, right? And then we can get further into it. We can maybe do another layer here, breaking down some of these structures. If this is your eye distances here and here, more symmetry. So this length here and this length here, that's the width of the eye from left to right. It's roughly the same width that you have here. So again, you can kind of break the facial structure down to thirds. So you have an eye width here, an eye width here, and an eye width roughly in between the corners of the eye. So these are symmetries that you can look for when you're kind of developing these structures. Other things you can look for is the corners of the eye here and here. If you were to draw a dotted line straight down, this will be roughly where your nostrils are. Your nostrils typically line up with the corners of the eye, right? So you can think of it that way. This is your mouth here. Now his is a little more obscured, but typically speaking, because he has a lot of facial hair and mustache, but if this is where your pupils are, the center mass of your eye, right? You could typically do the same kind of idea where you do a dotted line from the center mass of the eye straight down, and that will be roughly where the corner of the mouth will be. Again, he has some mustache here, so it's kind of obscured, but your mouth will kind of run to these corners here. And then I like to also do diagonals. So if you have your eyebrows up here, typically speaking, I like to run a diagonal line from the edge of the eyebrow to the edge of the eye, and this will go straight back to the nostrils. So I'm always looking for like this kind of triangular shape here as well. But these are some basic sort of symmetries you can be looking for when you're developing a face like this. And then again, you can find the base of the chin. Everyone's chin is going to be of varying width and shape. Some people have very, very strong jawlines, some people don't. It's all going to just vary. You're kind of looking for the tapering in. Again, we have these edges here, these kind of chopped off circles on the sides. Most sort of basic facial structures will kind of taper in a little bit. Again, it's all going to vary depending on the reference and model that or character that you're drawing. You typically kind of find the back of the jawline here kind of tapering in roughly around like mouth line, for example. And then you get our hairline up here. You can kind of play up that whole like widow's peak thing if you want to. There we go. You can kind of check out some of the facial hair that kind of comes in. Oh, he's got kind of a scraggly looking beard here. And I mean, this jawline actually, depending on the character that you're drawing, his face actually might be a bit more narrow, right? So these are things that you can kind of play up. And if you're into things like character design, then yeah, you can definitely play up shapes of the face, you know, narrower features, narrower jawlines, longer noses, maybe thinner eyes, for example. You can kind of play up all those different features if you want to. Now, a key reason why I can tell this is sort of a slightly downturned angle is that typically the tip of the ear is going to line up with the eye or the brow. In this case, though, it's actually the tip of the ear is pretty prominently featured up higher. And usually the base of the ear kind of aligns with the base of the nose, right? But again, in this case, the base of the ear is actually in between the tip of the nose and the base of the eye, like in this area. So usually this length from here to here is the equivalent from here to here. Let me show that again in another layer. So symmetry. Your ear height will be the equivalent to eye to nose, like that. So whenever you have like a head shifted and some of the features are either lower down or higher up, you need to, these lengths, these distances don't change. So even though the head is tilted down and the eye is lower, the nose is lower, and the ear becomes raised up because the sphere is physically changing its orientation, the size of the ear still is exactly the same, right? So keep those kind of things in mind. Because that's going to help you kind of gauge the actual sort of size of the features, right? And again, this is all super rough. Like I'm not actually sketching out any kind of significant detail at this point. This is more just kind of sketching and drawing, right? And trying to find some key like like landmarks of the face, like I was saying before, right? It's kind of your basic bare bones, quick tutorial in terms of just some key landmarks, right? And I think I'm going to be probably doing some Vikings fan art because I think there's some really interesting characters, and I kind of like that the mythology behind it. It's very interesting. So I may do some more. Again, make sure if you have ears here, if the head's not tilted, your ears should be roughly the same vertically. Obviously, if the head's kind of cocked to the side or tilted to the side, that will change. So over here we have the actual red line I did before. You can again you can kind of see the breakdown, a sphere cut in half where our brown line will be. Eyes will be a bit lower just because again the head is tilted downwards. And as a result, we do have the typical nose location a bit lower. Mouth is still relatively close to the baseline of the circle. And again, from brow to nose, we count that as a third. We can do that same measurement from brow to nose upwards. So from here, let me get a better color here. So from here to here should be the equivalent, or roughly the equivalent from here to here, which would be roughly the same equivalent from the tip of the nose to the chin, right? So thirds, 1, 2, 3, right? And then we have, again, the symmetries here, corners of the eye, going to the, roughly to the edge of the nostril. And again, corners of the eyes, interior, exterior. We have roughly the same widths across, 1, 2, 3. So we get thirds going across. And then, again, a bit obscured, but we do have the corners of the mouth here, which should roughly line up from the center point of the eyes downwards. And then, again, you can kind of find your facial anatomy here. And then ears as well, etc., etc. But that's kind of the general gist of the breakdown there. And then if we want to just kind of clean this up a little bit, we have a fairly good idea of what we're working with here. So one thing as well is that you can kind of keep in mind is don't rush your drawings. You know, take your time to break down some of these symmetries and find these shapes, right? This will be a super quick sketch here. We'll just do this in a couple minutes, right? But I've done the groundwork already. I've kind of located a lot of my features. I know where my nostrils should be. I'm just kind of keeping things loose. Things like drawing the actual eye, and these are other lessons we can take a look at later in, but you could draw the best eye in the world if you don't know where to place the eye in relation to other features, then you're not going to be able to get a convincing portrait. And you improve through repetition. You're going to get better and better the more you practice and analyze faces and work on drawing, trying to figure out facial anatomy and features and relationships with each other. You know, how certain areas of the face aligns with other aspects. So again, these are going to be things that you're going to kind of develop the more you practice, right? You're going to need to put your reps in. And again, this would be sort of a close to the quality of a sketch I would take. Maybe I might do, if I wasn't happy with the likeness, if I didn't feel like it was close enough, I would probably consider doing another sketch pass. That's just the way that the way I kind of work with prepping a drawing for paint. The more comfortable I am with the actual sketch leading into the painting, the less work I need to do on the back end, where I might need to kind of make adjustments and with paint to try to find the likeness, whether it be like the eye detail or the shape structure or the facial shape structure, etc. So for me, being able to nail a sketch early into the process, it's pretty important. It definitely has an interesting look to him, right? The really interesting thing, though, is once you can kind of establish some of these basic shapes and forms, you can then go in and have a lot more fun and experiment and try different line weights, different methods for like cross-hatching or brush strokes if you're going to be painting. But the key is getting a very comfortable base sketch in there, and don't ever rush it. Like, take your time and get your sketch done. This isn't by any stretch of the imagination a perfect piece. It's definitely not. There's definitely some stuff that's maybe a little wonky about the drawing, but this would be good enough for me to take into a painting process now. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully you're able to kind of grasp a little bit of information in terms of how I lay out a face, how I prepare for a portrait. And again, maybe helps open up the idea of looking for spatial relationships, and that will help you kind of achieve a better likeness and a better result for your drawings and hopefully your paintings too. Alright guys, thanks very much for watching. Have a great afternoon, and I'll see you all soon.